Yeah. This is your boy, Tone DeShields II, and you guys are locked in on your dose of Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. Y'all know how we give it up here. Always got to start the show with gratitude. Appreciate you guys. A lot of love sent your way. Thank you for being here in the presence of me, and I'm grateful to be in the presence of you. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you guys remain engaged, because I have a special guest coming on in a little bit, in about maybe 10 or 12 minutes or so. I have a special guest coming on. Should be pretty fun. Another Eagles content creator, a guy that does amazing work. So I'm super excited to get him on. Has been keeping his foot to the pavement for a long time. So I can't wait to bring him on. I'm going to surprise you guys with that one. Maybe you guys have heard of him, maybe you haven't, but hopefully you have. Again, he's doing great work, and I can't wait to have him on. But I appreciate you guys for being here. Once again, make sure you guys smash the like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the show. Got some things to discuss as always. It's the off season, but we're going to always keep the pulse in full effect. You know, I want to talk to you guys about the rookies, of course, and where exactly do they fit in on this new look Philadelphia Eagles roster. I was looking at the depth chart. I want to say last night or earlier today. Can't quite remember when, but I was looking at the depth chart, and I was just saying to myself, a lot of talent, a lot of new blood, not a lot of youth, but you also have your blend of veterans. So I asked myself, where do guys like Cooper Dejean and Jalyx Hunt, Johnny Wilson and Anias Smith, where do they fit? Dylan McMahon, Trevor Keegan, where do they fit on the depth chart? And, you know, later down the line, we're going to do a mock cut down, a mock 53 man, a mock 65 man cut down. We're going to do that later down the line. But today, I just want to broach it a little bit. Where do these guys fit? Me personally, I think it goes without saying, Quinyon Mitchell is going to be a starter on day one. No ifs, ands, buts about it. Quinyon Mitchell, you drafted him in the first round, 22nd overall. He was the number one cornerback prospect in the draft. It has to go without saying that Quinyon Mitchell is starting on day one, which begs the question, what's the Philadelphia Eagles' plan for James Bradberry? Now, I think James Bradberry is likely going to be cut, especially post-June 1st. That's what I think is going to happen. But at the same time, could something else happen? So we have to judge this roster as it currently looks. And I think because the Eagles drafted Quinyon Mitchell, he's going to be starting at corner with Darius Slay. I think that's the perfect situation for them. And then they'll find something to do with James Bradberry. But Dejean, where does he fit in? He's a unique prospect because of the versatility. Who is he competing directly with on the depth chart? I'd say he's competing with Reed Blankenship. He's competing with Sidney Brown. I'd say he's competing with Avonte Maddox, competing with Tyler Hall. That's what Cooper Dejean is in a way more convoluted situation than Quinyon Mitchell. Quinyon Mitchell is an outside corner. That's what he's going to be. But Cooper Dejean, where does he fit in on this roster? As a matter of fact, let me bring up the depth chart real quick. All right, here we go. Might got to zoom in on that. It's a little small. All right. Excuse me. So this is the defensive depth chart right now. At corner, you got Darius Slay. And already they have Quinyon Mitchell ahead of James Bradberry on the depth chart. Already, you can see it here. And they already have Cooper Dejean ahead of Avonte Maddox in the nickel. And this website is Our Lads. Our Lads does an amazing job. They do an amazing job at predicting these depth charts. So if you guys get a chance, go check out ourlads.com. They do a pretty good job at showing these depth charts, and They already have Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper Dejean at the front. Brian Biting says, I would keep Burtonberry on the roster. You would? Wow. Even after calling him Burtonberry? That's crazy. That's crazy. But before I continue, though, let's get some shout-outs done. Brian Biting was good. The GOAT Michi, Crawley, 26, Fitness Warrior, El Yepa, Aishan. Appreciate you guys. Ray Matthews, Larry Love, William H. Miller, Yeah Roth. Welcome to the show. But like you said, right? Yale, the secondary is deep. And they already have James Bradbury behind Quinyon Mitchell, which is what I expected. And they already have Avonte Maddox behind Cooper Dejean. I don't know if I expected that per se, but the people that makes the depth charts as of right now has Cooper Dejean in that nickel role. And as far as safety, they got C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Reed Blankenship out there. So overall, it remains to be seen. By the way, you guys, again, make sure you keep smashing that like button. I do have a special guest coming on in about 5 minutes or so. So that's going to be really exciting. But I'm really curious to see the combination between Quinyon Mitchell and Darius Slay because they both play with a lot of speed. But I think Quinyon Mitchell is just a stronger corner, just physically, just a more physically dense corner. Slay, he's more slim, more agile, more agility, things like that. Just very quick, very shifty corner. Quinyon, 6 feet, 195 pounds. He's a very dense dude, very strong player, strong hands. So I would love for Quinyon Mitchell to learn whatever he can from Darius Slay, especially while he's here. Because now that begs the question, what's Darius Slay's shelf life? Is this his last season in Philadelphia? Or is 2025 going to be his last season in Philadelphia? I think it all depends on how he produces. That's what I think. But thinking about other rookies, right? Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Let's just think about him. On this depth chart right now, the linebacker room is crowded. And they had this set up in the 3-4 scheme. Like this depth chart is formatted in the sense of a 3-4. So you see your nose tackle in Jordan Davis, and you got your DT and Jalen Carter, and your DN and Milton Williams. But then you got your inside linebackers and your outside linebackers. Jeremiah Trotter is going to be competing with these inside guys here. He's going to be competing with Nakobe Dean, Devin White, Oren Burks, Zach Bond, Ben Van Sumeren. But I think Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is competing directly, more so with Nakobe Dean and Devin White. Now, Devin White has a ton of experience to go along with the accolades he's accumulated in his short career. But Devin White hasn't had the best career as of recently. As of recently, he hasn't had the best career. He's fallen from grace in a lot of people's eyes, and they feel like he's not as good as he used to be. But he's still a young player. He's still only 26 years old. And Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is, 21, 22? Nakobe Dean, 22, 23, I think, something like that. So I think Jeremiah Trotter, because of the versatility he brings to the position, the athleticism, the football IQ, he mirrors Nakobe Dean and Devin White in their build very closely. But because Jeremiah Trotter lacks the experience, Devin White does have an edge with Jeremiah Trotter. Nakobe Dean, even though he's gotten hurt a lot, he's been in this playbook for 2 seasons for the most part. Or let's just say he's been in the NFL, because with Vic Fangio, he's going to ask them to do different things. But Nakobe Dean, Devin White, they have NFL experience. That's what puts them over Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Trotter Jr. has youth, speed, athleticism, a better injury history on his side in comparison to Nakobe Dean, especially. And because Dean has been hurt and hasn't been on the field that much, how much value, how much stock do you really put into his experience? Devin White, he's your most experienced linebacker, if we're being frank about it. When it comes to your inside guys, Devin White is your most experienced linebacker. But because Vic Fangio hasn't coached any of these guys before, because this is the situation where all these guys are coming in trying to prove it, I don't think there's going to be any favoritism involved. Obviously, Howie drafted these guys and he wants to get the best people on the field. But when you bring in Vic Fangio to help fix your defense, I don't think you want to step on his toes. When it comes to Vic Fangio, I don't think your goal is to ever necessarily step on his toes. In reality, what you're trying to do is make sure he has all the pieces he needs to execute his plan. I think a player like Cooper Dejean helps him execute his plan because of the versatility he brings. I think a player like Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Jalyx, Quinyon Mitchell, I think players like CJ GJ, Darius Slay, right? Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, I think they help him execute his plan. But now that you bring in this new crop of rookies, and then there are guys from your previous two draft classes who have still yet to really make a name for themselves, like Dean, and Davis is still figuring it out as well, along with Reed Blankenship, who maybe you didn't draft, but he's an undrafted guy. Young guy, you extended him, so you like him. He has equity in the building. Do you think the perfect scenario for the Philadelphia Eagles is having Reed Blankenship on the field along with Cooper Dejean? And that's why they have Dejean at the nickel spot when it comes to this depth chart. Again, Dejean right now, they have him slotted into the nickel role ahead of Avonte Maddox, ahead of Tyler Hall, guys who have NFL experience playing the nickel. They got Cooper Dejean ahead of him right now. Quinyon Mitchell obviously is ahead of Bradbury. A lot of people believe that Bradbury will be cut post June 1st. So that's one less body competing. And the Eagles don't got to pick up that money. So overall, it's where do these players fit? Knowing you have a plethora of linebackers, you have a plethora of DBs, and you got versatility in the building. And you brought in some undrafted guys as well. I think it's one of those situations where the best man is going to have to survive. The best man is going to have to stake his claim. Although Avonte Maddox built up trust when it comes to the skill set, can he stay healthy? They cut him and brought him back. At a lower price for a reason. That says a lot to me. Tyler Hall, nickel corner, played for the Raiders, young guy, but still has a lot to prove. They got Cooper Dejean in that nickel role already. So it all remains to be seen. But I can't wait to bring on this guest that I've been teasing for you guys. He does amazing work. Love what he's built there at Weapon X Eagles Media. Has the Voice of the Eagles podcast. Nearly 60,000 subscribers. I'll say that again. Over 1,000 videos on YouTube. Nearly 60,000 subscribers. This man does amazing work. Love the energy he brings. Love his breakdown. Love how insightful he is. You guys know who it is. My guy, Weapon X in the building. My man, first and foremost, thank you for coming on to the platform. I appreciate you, man. You have been trying to get this thing popping. Let's just say for the better part of maybe late last year, you tapped in with me. And I don't know what it is. I mixed it in the Twitter sphere. But here we are nonetheless. I appreciate you, my man. How you feeling?
I'm great, man. I feel like I made it. I'm gonna chalk it up sports, bro. I feel like I made it to the big leagues.
Come on, man. Listen.
Hey, man, I'm a huge fan, bro. I support everything you do. I love the channel, man. Keep going crazy, bro. Keep going crazy.
Bro. I appreciate that because
yeah,
I look at your channel and I say, I'm trying to catch up to him. I feel like I'm bringing in the big leaguer. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I'm still AAA, AA. You know what I'm saying? And I'm bringing on somebody that hit. You know, that's batting 1,000 right now. That's how I feel though. But nonetheless, I appreciate you, my man, for taking the time out. We got a lot to get into. So we didn't even really get into how much time you had, but I would love to tap in with you and really lock in on all these draft picks, even some of the undrafted guys, just to get your overall sense of it? How are you on time?
Well, I mean, probably about an hour.
Okay.
Hour 10, however,
That's perfect. So let's get
right
into it then.
When you're talking Eagles, man, it just time flies, when you're talking
Yes.
about something that you love,
Yes, exactly. So let's just get right into it then, right? Day one of the draft, a lot of people felt like if the Eagles were going to get their man, they would either have to trade up or trade something so they can get the guy, be it if it's a draft pick or a proven product. I know a lot of us was talking about Patrick Surtain and whatever moves they can make on that front. We was all talking about that. But the top tier cornerback prospects in the draft were Quinyon Mitchell, Terrion Arnold, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Cooper DeJean, Nate Higgins. Those were the 5 guys, right? That a lot of people felt like, hey, take your pick. You really can't miss. And the way the draft fell, the first 14 picks were offensive players. I don't think any of us saw that coming, but it speaks to where the NFL was going. Quarterbacks, offensive line, wide receivers. You even saw Brock Bowers go off the board. So when everything fell in the Philadelphia Eagles' favor and they had their pick of the litter when it came to the cornerbacks and they chose Quinyon Mitchell, I want to know what was going through your mind at the time of the pick. Because I know we all had our different opinions or our different philosophies on how they should approach the draft. Yep. So for one, let's start here. What did you think their approach should have been? And then what's your reaction to what they actually executed on that day?
Okay, well, out the gate, I wanted an edge rusher, right? Okay. You lose Hassan Reddick, your best player on defense, your best pass rusher, arguably your best player on defense. Then you lose your best pass rusher. And I know we go and get Bryce Huff, but Bryce Huff, we haven't seen him in a full capacity. You look at Brandon Graham, we know he's gone after this year. You look at Jai Sweat, I think they restructured him for just a 1 year. He has 1 year on his deal. Then Nolan Smith, I love Nolan Smith. We all love Nolan Smith. He's unproven. He's a young guy. What does that leave us with? So I was under the clear assumption that the Philadelphia Eagles were going to get an edge rusher. When you look at the cornerbacks, when you get a Quinyon Mitchell at 22, I mean, you have to be happy about that. So it was at first I was kind of bummed out because I think about the Super Bowl we lost. No one got any pressure. No, I mean, I don't even think we sacked Patrick Mahomes. You look at down the stretch when we just imploded, we had everybody disappeared. The entire D-line, they all disappeared. So, man, I really thought we was going to get one of those edge rushers. But you look at Quinyon Mitchell. The first thing I see is the guy is squatting 500 pounds and he runs a 4.3. Okay, he checks that box. You need with these defensive backs, they all have to be uber athletic. They have to be freaks athletically. He checked that box. Then you go look at some of his tape, and I mean, man, I was happy. I wasn't even really too upset about them not getting the edge rushers. When I look at not only Quinyon Mitchell, but what they've done and the totality of the draft, and then they getting Cooper Dejean from. I mean, it was just unbelievable. You leave out the draft with 2 of the best, defensive backs. That's a win in itself already. So I mean, with the pick and with the draft, I was extremely excited about the whole entire draft. You look at Jalyx Hunt when
fascinating prospect, right? Very fascinating. It threw me off.
He was a safety.
Christian, that threw me off a little bit.
Yeah, he was a safety. That's my thing. This dude went from a safety to an edge rusher. So
never seen it.
That actually made me feel, I was at that point when they grabbed him, I was content. I was happy because I'm like, man, we need an edge rusher. I was just hell bent on getting some pass rushers. I think we still need some more, honestly. But I mean, overall, it was just cool. Jalyx, it was a lot of pushback with everybody, I would say the vast majority of the fan base was like, was this a reach or things like that. He's just a guy. He has the tools. It's just going to take time, right? But
yeah,
I
because
mean,
he was
dude
great. He
was
was
so
graded
under the
high.
radar.
That's the weird thing about him. He was graded high. Like he was graded high for a guy who went from DB to edge rusher. You know, I'm looking at ESPN grades, the NFL. I'm looking at all that kind of stuff. NFL Draft Buzz. I'm all over the place with it. And he had a solid grade. You know, a lot of people felt like projected third round pick, borderline fourth. And I guess when the Eagles saw him, they probably fell in love with his traits, right? That athleticism he brought at 6'4", 6'5", 255 pounds, former DB turned edge. That pick in and of itself had Vic Fangio's hands all over it, if you ask me.
Word. Yeah, for sure. Even and Cooper Dejean. I mean, the entire with most of the acquisitions on defense, because he's the defensive coordinator, you know. So I feel like he's at the helm of all of the moves that's being made defensively. Honestly, I mean, he's a guru. He's brilliant. Even if you think about the conversation him and Jalyx had, and Jalyx was pretty much saying they were just talking football and how he can get better. And so that's a great point, man, because for him and Fangio, they had to sit down, and Jalyx, he talked about it. He was in more depth regarding the conversation, but, you know, he kind of downplayed it, you know, to where it was just, you know, X's and O's and things like that. But I'm pretty sure Fangio had this guy on his radar for quite some time.
So let me ask you this, right? You draft a guy like Quinyon Mitchell, you draft a guy like Cooper Dejean, just doubling back to them, right? If you ask me, you don't draft those guys to hold clipboards on day one. Me personally, Quinyon Mitchell especially, he has to come in and be the starting guy next to Darius. So I say that to say, what do you think is the future for James Bradberry? And do you think Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper Dejean are going to see a lot of grass time come week one?
Man, you know, I sympathize with James Bradberry, man, you know, because I really just didn't like the man guts after the Super Bowl. And I mean, bro, but I kind of, man, I just sometimes I sympathize with certain players. And with James Bradberry, I feel like he just had a bad year in a horrible scheme. The defense was trash. Everything, just the chemistry on the team, the chemistry on the defense, all the moving parts in the secondary. I don't want to make too many excuses for the guy. He's a professional. How we paid him a lot of money. He has a job to do at the end of the day. But I feel like with Vic Fangio, that is perfect for James Bradberry. I think James Bradberry is going to – I honestly don't see a lot of drastic moves in the secondary, honestly. I don't think any of the rookies are going to start. I can't remember the last time a Eagles rookie came in and started, to be honest. They like to sit a lot of their young guys, and I think that's cool as far as developing them. Now, if things start to break down during the season and injuries, Avonte Maddox, or God forbid, anything happens, we do have those guys to come in. So I really feel like I don't think they start. I don't think they play. They probably get some special teams reps. I think the Philadelphia Eagles kind of ease these guys in, and James Bradberry is going to be eventually they're going to move on from him. And when they do, they have and Darius Slay. So they have pieces to it's kind of similar how they did Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. I think nothing changes with the defensive back. So I think, man, unless barring something crazy happening in the midst of the NFL season, I think they just sit back and learn and, you know, get ready to, you know, take charge and, you know, for the future. But this year, I honestly think I would like to see them. Honestly, I would love to see them guys in there playing. But yeah, and then you look at just the totality of our defensive backs. We got some guys in there, so man, I just love it because now it breeds for competition, and competition makes everybody better. So I think they sit, bro. I think they sit for a year.
Yeah, I guess for me, I'm looking at it from the perspective of you drafted them where you drafted them. You went DB back to back in the draft. You know you got to get younger on defense. You know you had to get more athletic. You had to get more playmakers in there. Yeah. I just don't see a situation where at the very least, Quinyon Mitchell, right? Let's just keep it on him. I have a hard time seeing a situation where you draft a guy of that caliber, the de facto number one corner in the draft, you get him and you're sitting him on day one. I have a hard time believing it. I have an even a larger hard time being okay with it. You feel what I'm saying? It's just
Right.
and then James Bradbury, they have an out, right? The post June 1st cut, they can get out of that situation relatively unscathed. They can take on whatever money that comes with. They know they can handle it. And with the AJ Brown extension, and we're going to get into that at some point. It brought them a lot of breathing room. The Devontae Smith extension, it gave them some breathing room as far as the cap hit. I just have a hard time believing you draft a guy of that caliber with that kind of skill set, and you're not trying to get him on the grass day one. I think that's the only way to find out exactly what he is and prove that you made the right decision in drafting that player, especially when you had your pick of the litter when it came to the corners. I know I'm willing to bet Terrion Arnold, they're going to have him out there day one. I'm willing to bet they're going to have Nate Higgins out there day one in Baltimore. So, but again, like we have to see. I'm just looking at it from the perspective of they've broken their trends time and time again this offseason. And it started with the Saquon Barkley sign. And now you went corner back to back in the draft. It all remains to be seen, of course. I do appreciate your perspective, but I just think
that's a great point. That's a great point with the trends that's changing. So who knows? Especially if James Bradbury isn't here to start the season. Oh yeah, he's definitely definitely a star.
It all depends on that. That's a good point. It all depends on what they do with Bradbury. If Bradbury is here come training camp or whatever it may be, I think that's where things get a little tricky.
But even if he starts the first couple games and plays extremely well, so it remains to be seen.
Yeah. It's all hearsay. But I like the situation they're in with Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper Dejean, Jalyx Hunt. I think he's the project out of the entire draft class. He's the one that may have one of the highest ceilings. But again, the Philadelphia Eagles taking a lot of risk in that third round, like they've done in the past few years. They rolled the dice on Davion Taylor. They're still rolling the dice on Nakobe Dean. So that third round continues to be that spot where they take a chance or a flyer on somebody who they deem to have high upside. I want to get into another pick though, the fourth round pick, Will Shipley, running back out of Clemson. Right, I love everything about Will Shipley. I like the size, but more than anything, I like his production that he had at Clemson. He was arguably the most productive running back in the ACC. If I'm not mistaken, let me make sure I got this right here. 34 total touchdowns, over 3,200 total yards, 904 kick return yards, averaged over 5 yards a carry at Clemson. Just a very productive player. What type of impact do you see him having on this roster in year one or maybe year two? And what do you think his future holds, right? And I say that to say, where do you think Kenny Gainwell fits into this situation?
Yeah. You look at Shipley. When you look at his tape, he's explosive. I didn't really see anything out of the backfield, but I'm pretty sure he has the capability to catch balls out of the backfield. I honestly think it was more of a depth move with the whole, Saquon Barkley, the injury thing that he has attached to his name, which I think is kind of overblown. But I really feel like he was just another great depth piece at running back. When you lose Boston Scott, I feel like you need some depth at running back. And to go get a guy like him, he's fast. He runs a 4.3, 4.39 or something like that. He's explosive. As far as he doesn't break a lot of tackles, but I like the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles grabbed a running back that has some wheels. And I don't know, man, I think it's just a nice depth piece. He can also play special teams. So I think he can contribute day one, honestly. But to what capacity? Again, I think he's probably just he'd probably be a third string. I don't think he beats Kenny Gainwell out, especially not right now in year one. I know we can get excited about these draft picks, but I try to be realistic and put realistic expectations on these guys. They are young, right? So you never know how things could play out with some of these draft picks. But yeah, I really don't think he would make a big impact year one. I think he's just great for depth and possibly special teams. I think he can possibly make a huge impact on special teams.
Yeah, I think I think that running back situation is fascinating because when you look at the room, obviously Saquon Barkley is your one. But then as of right now on the depth charts, according to ourlad.com, that's the one I use. I like them a lot. Ourlads.com, they had the Eagles depth chart at running back. Saquon Barkley's the one, Gainwell 2, Will Shipley 3, Lou Nichols 4, Tyrion Davis Price 5, Kendall Milton 6. Now, obviously those back end guys, I don't really see them making the biggest impact. One of those guys that stands out to me is Kendall Milton, just the size. He's like 6'2", 6'3", 220
Guy from Georgia,
plus
right?
pounds. Yeah, just a physical specimen. Always falls forward. That's the interesting product. I like power backs. I like guys that are physical. Yeah. That's just me. Yeah. But Will Shipley, I do agree with you. I think he adds a lot in the return game. That's another reason why I like the other guy, Anias Smith, as well. We're going to get to him too.
Yeah.
But I think with Kenny Gainwell being in that contract year, he is going to bring his A game. I do expect that. But personally, I haven't seen anything from Gainwell to make me feel so gung-ho about him, just personally.
Yeah.
But because of the experience, he does have that edge over Will Shipley, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So
I would honestly, if I had any say so, I would have Shipley at the number 2. Honestly, I just want to see anybody else. I don't know. I'm kind of just tired of Gainwell. Honestly, man. I've seen some on the internet with some of his workouts, and it doesn't look too reassuring at all. I don't know, man. I think the writing may be on the wall for Kenny G. I'll be honest with you, but I would definitely like to see just any other back. To be honest, I don't know what it is about Kenny Gainwell. It's just
he doesn't really have that much explosiveness to him.
Yeah,
he can't block. He's small. The Eagles weren't even really giving him the ball that much, passing from the backfield. It's just I don't know. Like he's been here for 3 seasons. He's had these blips where you say, "Ooh, I like that move," or "I like that play," but we haven't really seen a game where we can say, "Ooh, Gainwell really he carried that game." He outplayed him this game. I mean, we haven't really seen that.
Playoff games he showed up.
Yeah. He came
that's where the hype began. I feel like he was making huge plays in the playoff games. You look at the Giants game, and you look at the Tampa game. He was making plays. Not the Tampa game this year, the one in 2021 or something like that. He was making plays. He's scoring touchdowns. So people were actually high on Kenny Gain at one point. Same with Quez Watkins. There was a point where people were high on Quez.
Yeah, I was one of them. I was one of them.
Yeah, but then you begin to see like, okay, this isn't it. So I feel like that's his trajectory, like a Quez Watkins kind of thing, and it's unfortunate because I really like Kenneth Gainwell. I believed in him.
Yes,
I think it's time. I think the writing's on the wall for him, and I would love to see Will Shipley get some of those carries, please, because he's explosive. He's explosive.
Facts. I'm going to transition to Anias Smith, Texas A&M wide receiver, returner. It's funny. I like to call Anias Smith Mr. All-Purpose, Mr. Do-It-All, hustle man, hustle brother. You know what I'm saying? Listen, you need air conditioners. He got them in the trunk. You need Jordans. He got those in the trunk. You need Timbs. What else you need? You need trash bags. Whatever you need, he got it. Right. He did everything in that Texas A&M offense and special teams. 50 total games played with 34 starts, over 2,400 receiving yards, averaged 13 yards a reception, 19 receiving touchdowns, 405 rushing yards, 4 rushing TDs, 836 punt return yards, and 2 TDs throughout his time at Texas A&M. I like this kid. 5'9", a little on the smaller side. He's definitely more so your prototypical slot guy just from his build. Could he compete for wide receiver 3 spot? We'll see. You don't really know. He's very raw, but he's fearless out there. He's elusive. He's a guy that once he gets the ball in his hands, he's exciting. What was your thoughts about the Anias Smith pick? Were you excited about that? Was it somebody else you was looking at? How do you feel about him in general?
I mean, bro, you pretty much summed it all up. I mean, I look at him as he kind of reminds me of a Greg Ward, just as far as like his build. And I feel like he has the build of a Greg Ward, but I feel like he can be Deebo Samuel-esque. Now, there's no other Deebo Samuel. As much as I don't like the 49ers, I mean, just as far as his ability to play running back and receiver, he was slated as running back / receiver. He has the most all-purpose yards in SEC history, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he like you said, he's 5'9", but dude, he's getting yards after the catch with contact. And I mean, he's catching some of these balls. A lot of his work is in the middle of the field. So you got to keep your head on a swivel, or you might not wake up for about 10-15 minutes, or you might miss a couple games due to concussions. But dude doesn't care. I mean, I'm seeing him go down the middle. He's like extending his body, one-handed catches. So I mean, he has heart, like you said. I mean, he's physical for his size. I would definitely like to see him get some reps. Wide receiver 3. I definitely, it's a possibility. I feel like
it's crowded. I feel like it's crowded though.
Wide open.
It's crowded though, right? But it's wide open, but it's crowded.
Wide open. It's wide open. Anybody can go get it. That's why it's so crowded, because it's an open competition, right? So I mean, I definitely can see him taking control of that. And who else? We have who is the Devontae Adams for that? Or is he outside?
Devontae Parker. You got Devontae Parker. You got Paris Campbell. You got Anias Smith. You got Johnny Wilson. You got the kid Joseph Nagata, Austin Watkins Jr., Shaquan Davis, Jacob Harris, Talik Keaton, Britton Covey. You got a lot of, after AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, it's wide open.
Receivers, some of those guys are outside, but you got Paris Campbell, who I feel like he's going to potentially try to get that position in a slot. Right. But based off, I definitely think he can. He can possibly see some production and get some reps. When you just, the names that you list off, when you look at that number 3 position, it's definitely wide open. I feel like definitely wide open.
Yeah, I'm looking at the depth chart now. They got AJ Brown they got AJ Brown and Devontae Smith obviously as your starting wide receivers on the boundary. Then they got Devontae Parker behind Devontae Smith. Yeah. They got Johnny Wilson behind AJ Brown. They got Anias Smith behind Paris Campbell in the slot. So as of right now, they got Paris Campbell slated as your starting slot. Then Anias Smith is your second string slot. Then Britton Covey is your third string slot. I'm really curious to see Anias Smith stake his claim on the roster, because I believe each rookie has a different target or a different size target that they're hitting. And what I mean by that is there are some rookies where their path to the roster is much more narrow than someone else's. And when I look at Anias Smith, his path to the 53-man roster, his path is wider than a guy's like Johnny Wilson, because Anias Smith, he brings you so many factors in his game. The punt return, the special teams ability. You can use him in the run game on jet sweeps. The slot receiver. So he gives you his target, his path to the roster is much more clearer or wider than it is for a Johnny Wilson. When it comes
to do more.
And he can do more. It's the bottom line. Johnny Wilson, 6'6", 230, just a big physical
I like him,
receiver. I like him too, man. If he can become more technically sound, and you couple that with that physicality, that catch radius, that mismatch nightmare feature he brings you, Johnny Wilson can be a problem. He needs to stand real close to AJ Brown to find out how he moved that brolic frame.
Yeah. He's a development. It's going to take the coaches to develop some of these players. But I like it. Matter of fact, that he's 6'6". Always like taller receivers. I don't understand why they don't pan out. Maybe because like their hips and footwork and things like that. But man, it'll if you can find one, it'll be a mismatch. It'll be just too like a Plaxico Burress type of a guy.
I think a lot of those guys, they're so they're tall guys, they're big guys. I think a lot of those guys tend to rely too much on just a physical prowess rather than doubling down on technique. And I think that's what separated Megatron from a lot of wide receivers, right? He had the size, but he was also technically sound.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
So I'm looking at Johnny Wilson as a player that you can continue to develop. Anias Smith, you can continue to develop him, but I think he's going to push Brenton Covey. I think what Brenton Covey has over him, obviously, is coming off of a solid season returning punts, and he's pretty sure-handed back there. We've seen a lot of Anias Smith highlights, and too often he muffed that punt a couple times. He turned it into something. He turned it into something, bro. But in the NFL, they moving a lot faster than that. So just give me, Anias Smith, Johnny Wilson. First and foremost, I guess, do you think those guys make the 53-man roster? Again, it's early, but they did draft them. Do you think they make the 53?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think they're going to keep the guys they drafted. If the Philadelphia Eagles drafted you this year and you don't make the team, it's all on you. But it's going to be tough to make this Philadelphia Eagles roster. This roster is stacked right now. This roster is extremely stacked, so it's going to be tough. It's going to be. Then you have John Ross coming in for rookie mini camps. The guy who broke, John Ross, right? Mm-hmm. He's coming in, so you're going to have a lot of competition ahead of you. And I think it's going to be tough. But if the Philadelphia Eagles drafted you, it's because they want to develop you and they want to keep you around. So I think all of the draft picks, now the undrafted guys, I don't know. I don't know what's going to go on with them. But if all the initial guys the Philadelphia Eagles drafted, I think that they should be safe and make the roster for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And once you get to that back end of the draft, once you get 5th round, 6th round, 7th round, you're drafting for traits that you want to develop. At that point, it's such a thin line between certain players. Now you're looking for certain traits in guys like Johnny Wilson, just that big dude. You'll be making a huge mistake if you let him get to the practice squad so a team could just pick him off of it. That's not a smart move. So likely because of the fact that they draft those players and they love their traits and they want to find out what they are, they're going to make this roster by default. Transitioning to another guy that they brought in, the legacy piece, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. And, there's a narrative out there that people say, did you draft him just because of his last name? It's, he's small, what can he do, all that kind of stuff. And my mindset is, well, he fell to the 5th round. I feel like that's territory or that's grounds to take a shot on somebody. It wasn't like you reached in the 2nd or even a high 3rd. He fell to the 5th after you got essentially what you wanted throughout the draft. And you traded back so many times, you would have thought that the Eagles was going to miss out on him. But he's still under the band there. I like the investment in where they got him. What's your overall thoughts on Jeremiah Trotter Jr., the legacy he's trying to fulfill, his role in his team, and the competition in that linebacker room? Break that all down for me.
All right, well, I mean, there's obvious some bias when you go and select a Hall of Fame caliber. He's in the Eagles Hall of Fame. When you go grab his son, I mean, it has to be something there. You see, the owner was kind of choked up, and Howie even mentioned he said something about him being biased towards hometown kids and stuff like that. So that's fair. And you look at it was the 5th round. It was great value. We still need linebackers. All right, that's still the position as a whole is in a work in progress. So. It wasn't like the Philadelphia Eagles reached for the guy. It was great value. So, it's definitely some bias there, for sure. But I mean, you look at Nakobe Dean. When I seen that we was going, I didn't know if we was going to get Jeremiah Trotter. I was still like, man, I hope we don't miss out on him. It was something to where. You watching a draft and everybody's just waiting to see if the Philadelphia Eagles going to draft Jeremiah Trotter. Maybe after the 3rd round, or maybe after the third round, people start getting antsy. Like, man, what's going on with Jeremiah Trotter? And when they got him, I don't know, man. It was kind of emotional for everybody. I watched Jeremiah Trotter, so to see his kid being drafted to the Eagles, man, making me feel so old, bro. But it was extremely emotional, and out of the kid, okay, you look at his tape, right? He went to high school in Philly, St. Joseph's Prep, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And he was a dog everywhere he went. He produced. Okay, he's sideline to sideline kind of a guy. You look at his his training when he was at the what is it the before the draft they have the what is it, I can't think of it.
The combine.
Yeah, the combine. Yeah, at the combine, he didn't really. His numbers weren't off the charts, but he produced when he was at Clemson. He was the best player on the team. He's always been a really great player, which most draft selections are. They're the best of the best. But when I'm thinking about Nakobe Dean. Honestly, I think the writing is on the wall for Nakobe Dean. Even dating back from last year, I've been so high on Nakobe Dean, but at some point, man, it's just like you have to be honest with yourselves.
Him missing year 2, the way he missed it was a huge blow for him. Huge blow. The way he got hurt in last season, and ended up on IR twice, and then getting shut down. That was a huge setback for him. He could have left something on the field that gave people some kind of confidence. Now they bring in Jeremiah Trotter Jr. You have no real tape that people can swing your way. It's almost like you're entering from the same position Jeremiah Trotter is, coming in trying to prove it.
Yeah, man.
And you've been in the league for two more seasons than him.
Yeah. But he shows flashes. The preseason game, the goal line, he even got a forced fumble, a turnover, stuff like that. I believe in Nakobe Dean wholeheartedly. But, I mean, at some point, it's like, man, you got to shoot. You got to make plays. And he hasn't been. I mean, even the stuff about him being injury prone or having something with his shoulder in the draft, and people were like, "Oh, that's BS. That's BS." Now you look at his injuries that he's been having, and it's like, man, how true was those reports? Is he actually really injury prone? But yeah, if he can stay healthy, I think he can have like 100 tackles, and I think he can be really productive if he can stay healthy. Now you do have the size. That's how linebackers are in
these days, right? Yeah, I can't.
Yeah, they're going to be like that. So I don't really too much, honestly, care about that. It's all about your toughness. How strong are you? Your will. And Nakobe Dean has all of those traits. So his injury was bizarre too. I don't know how there's conflicting reports to where I thought he was going to come back, and they say he was out for the season. I'm like, wait, what happened? Like,
yeah,
so it was crazy.
It was some kind of fracture in the foot, and then it became a Liz Frank in the same foot. So he re-injured the same foot. Right. So that tells me
he came back. When he came back, that's what happened. Right.
So what that tells me, because they put him on IR twice, that tells me that because once you're on IR, they got I think they got like a practice window, right? And I don't think he passed that final practice window, and that's why they had to shut him down for the rest of the season. So where he's getting those injuries in the exact same foot, that tells me your body is not responding well to the weight, the stress that feet injuries, right? When it comes to tall people, the first injuries they deal with is lower extremity because they're tall and all that weight is being stressed on their joints and their bones, right? And their feet. Nakobe Dean, he's dealing with 300 plus pound offensive linemen, especially in these gaps.
Yeah.
It's not like it's a hamstring or it's a torn pec. You know what I mean? Like it's these stress injuries on the feet that makes me nervous about that man.
Yeah. And he has to get stronger, and he has to probably get more stout. Maybe his body hasn't grown fully into the NFL. Maybe it takes time. But this year, man, we have to see something from Nakobe Dean. I'm pretty sure he's going to be starting. Man, I hope the best for him, honestly. But him and Jeremiah Trotter, it should be neck and neck. I think it should be wide open as far as who actually starts at linebacker.
Yeah, and then to make matters even more complicated, Howie, they say, "Oh yeah, we're still high on Nakobe Dean, right?" But then following those press conferences, free agency hits, and you bring in not one, not two, not three, but you bring in 4 linebackers that wasn't on your roster the year before. You started with Julian Okora, the Lions linebacker. That was the first guy they brought in. And then you bring in Zach Bond. Then you bring in Devin White. Then you bring in Oren Burks. You bring in 4 new bodies. On top of that, you got Ben Van Sumeren. Oh, Nakobe Dean. By the way, you drafted Jeremiah Trotter Jr. I'm trying to figure out. Hey, Nakobe, he said he rolling with you, but I don't believe him. I don't see it. I'm struggling with it. And it's a shame because, again, we're at a point where we don't even know if Nakobe's good or bad. That's the most frustrating thing about his situation. I don't even know if he's bad or not. I can't even kill him.
Bro, man. He's one of my favorite players, man.
I like the guy. I like the man.
That's just tough. It's tough to say this, man. But it's like you have to have these honest conversations, especially when you're making content. I feel like you're held to a kind of a higher standard in a sense, right? So it's unfortunate. Like the fan side of me, I just want to go just all out fanboy and say Nakobe Dean is that guy, and I believe that, but. We don't know, and that's like you said, that's what's the most unfortunate thing about it. If we knew he was good and he got some injuries, like he'll be fine. All right, but
you said something, Keto. You said the fact that we on this side of it, right? We're me and you, along with everybody else, we're struggling to walk this tightrope of analysis, content creator, football enthusiasts. We're walking that line between that and just crashing out as a fan, right? and it's some moments where I'm constantly challenged. Like I'll be having conversations with my father, right? And it's at a point now where he knows where I'm at, as far as because he watches the content. He know how I got to give it up. But at the same time, he like, damn, like son, like you sure Nakobe can't do? I'm like, listen. I like him, but he hasn't shown me anything. He hasn't shown us nothing. And I don't want to turn this into a Nakobe Dean, bashing session. It's just the fact of the matter is he has a lot of competition at that room, and you bring in Jeremiah Trotter Jr., that doesn't make it any easier, especially a guy like Trotter Jr. who comes in as being one of the better coverage linebackers in the FBS at Clemson. He had a 92 coverage grade according to PFF. Since 2022, he's been one of the best coverage linebackers in the league, sideline to sideline, athletic. So that has to count for something.
Yeah, and let me ask you this: look, if you make a poll and say Nakobe Dean or Jeremiah Trotter Jr., everybody's going Jeremiah Trotter Jr.
Yep. Everybody. And guess what? It don't help Dean. It doesn't help that Jeremiah Trotter got the legacy on the side too.
Exactly, bro. It makes it so much hard. That's why I'm saying he's done, because the legacy alone. Come on, man. We all ride for Jeremiah Trotter.
Yeah. And then Devin White, he got the experience.
He's gonna be a dog. I think he's gonna be a dog.
I think so too.
He's gonna be a dog, bro.
One linebacker that I'm interested in that a lot of people don't really care too much about. I'm fascinated by Zach Bond. I like the athleticism. I like how the Saints used him on the back end of the season when they went through injuries. He had to come in and play a few different roles for them. He's like that athletic linebacker that isn't the biggest dude, but you could send him to rush the passer. He could drop back in coverage. He can get interceptions, get sacks, whatever it is. So TFLs, he's a unique player. And I'm curious to see how they use him overall, especially in this new Vic Fangio situation. A lot of people say,
he's a middle linebacker, right?
So it's interesting, right? According to the depth chart, because they base these depth charts either off of a 4-3 or a 3-4. Now, obviously, in this new NFL, teams are hardly in base formation these days. They're spending most of the time in the nickel. Yeah. So you're going to see probably 2 linebackers on the field at a time, and then the rest is going to be your DBs and your pass rushers and all that kind of stuff. So, as of right now, they got Zach Bond listed as an inside linebacker, but again, they used him in that off-ball role a lot in New Orleans. Yeah. And again, I think the current depth chart that we're seeing here is like, perspective, of course, but right now at those inside linebacker spots, because again, it's based off of 3-4. They got Nakobe Dean and Devin White as those starting inside linebackers, and then Jeremiah Trotter Jr. and Oren Burks are backing them up, and so on and so forth. But it's going to be a hell of a competition.
I just don't see where he fits in the defense, honestly, because again, you're only going to have 2 linebackers and a nickel. So now, can he rush the passer? If he can rush the passer, then now he may. That's my thing. I don't know if he can rush the passer or not,
right?
And that remains to be seen. But if he can rush the passer, that makes him more versatile, and I think he would be able to, somehow be able to fight for some snaps.
Yeah, and I think the difference that we're going to see between these linebackers in terms of how Fangio is going to be evaluating them, I think he's going to make his decision more so on the fact that, okay, yeah, all of y'all got speed, all of you guys are athletic. If I send you guys to the passer, all you guys are going to be able to get home because of that sheer speed and athleticism. But who can I trust in coverage? I think that's going to be the tipping point above all else.
That's another thing. Can he cover?
Because they're all athletic. Devin White, Bond, Trotter Jr., Dean. They all have very interesting athletic traits. So I don't think that's going to be the difference that's made between those guys. I think it's going to come down to who do I trust more in coverage.
You're right, 100%. That's exactly what it's going to come down to. Yep.
So let me ask you about these offensive linemen that they brought in. You bring in Trevor Keegan, national champion at Michigan, at the guard spot, and then you also bring in Dylan McMahon out of NC State at the interior spot as well. They're so unique, especially Dylan McMahon. But let's just stay on Trevor Keegan first.
Okay.
The definition of a blue collar dude. He just to add some context, redshirted in 2019 and only played 5 games in 2020 as a backup. Then became the full-time starting left guard, playing in 44 games, starting in 37 games at Michigan.
Yeah.
0 sacks allowed. 0 sacks allowed in 2023. Only 3 sacks allowed in his entire college career.
Yeah.
On 982 pass block snaps per PFF, and was only penalized 6 times in over 2,200 recorded snaps.
Yeah.
The dude is disciplined. The dude is polished. The dude is a interior demon, super aggressive. I want to get your thoughts on Trevor Keegan and where you think he fits in on this roster. Just to add more context, you got Matt Hennessy competing for right guard. You got Tyler Steen competing for right guard. You still got the kid Brett Toth. I think we know what he is, but Steen and Matt Hennessy, those are the guys I think Trevor Keegan is going to be directly competing with for that right guard spot. What's your thoughts on him, his upside, where you see him on his roster?
Well, I mean, I like Keegan. I like his character, some of his characteristics. I like the fact that he lost, I think his second year in college, he lost maybe 30 or 40 pounds. And to change your body composition as a elite athlete, it changes everything about you. But for him to actually go through that transformation, to even stay at Michigan, where he was contemplating leaving, he stayed at Michigan, not even knowing if he was going to start. You can go to the transfer portal. He didn't. He stayed. I mean, and these are direct implications on your future, because if you make the wrong choice, you may not even get a chance in Michigan. So you may not even get a shot in the NFL.
Very good point.
So this dude doubled down on his work ethic, dropped 30 pounds. Like, dog, what? And again, he's been practicing at center, right guard, left guard. So I think he would, even if something happens, I mean, you look at the depth at our center position. Cam Jurgens at center, I'm still not sure. I haven't seen it. I have to see him a whole year, under center to have some faith or some type of prior knowledge to where I can kind of go to bat for the kid. But as of right now, I think Keegan, he could possibly, we could possibly see him at center. Because we rotate all of our guards, and these guys have to be versatile. Then you have I think Tyler Steen is kind of, I would like to see Tyler Steen at right guard, honestly. We got Cam Jurgens at center, but with Keegan, man, I like his character. I like his character. He's blue collar. He works hard. Man, he doubled down on his work ethic, and he won he's a champion. First and foremost, he's a champion. Man, yeah, he's polished. He's decorated. Man, that was a steal. Like,
no, for real. I mean, guards, they don't get drafted high anywhere. Guards never get drafted that high. But to your point, he was definitely a steal. And I'm sorry, because he comes in so polished, and that dedication that he has to the craft, being a true student of the craft, a film junkie, he's as physical as they come at the line of scrimmage. Like you said, to have the mental fortitude, the wherewithal to completely alter the composition of your body. I loved your breakdown of that, because that says a lot about his commitment to not only the game, but his commitment to being great and great at what he does. And I think that's the quintessential Jeff Stoutland prospect. If he comes in with this level of technique and being this polished, I can only imagine what his ceiling would be under Jeff Stoutland. I think I may be jumping out the window here, but I think the Philadelphia Eagles just drafted the future at right guard. I think I like Steen. Don't get me wrong, but the only time we really seen him last year was when he came in that Dallas game, and I think they had an injury or something like that. Matter of fact, Cam Jurgens was hurt, and he came into the Dallas game. They felt comfortable going with him, and he was okay. He was all right, but I still feel like Tyler Steen doesn't have that right guard spot under a stranglehold just yet.
Yeah,
because they brought in Matt Hennessy, to keep them honest. Then you draft Trevor Keegan, and you draft Dylan McMahon as well, a guy in Dylan McMahon he's an interesting prospect too. Played in 49 games with 44 starts at NC State. Throughout those 44 starts, he's been at either left guard, center, at right, and right guard. Typically, you got guys that can either swing between two of the three, but he can swing comfortably between all three interior positions. Yeah. Very unique. Yeah. That's another prospect who's the quintessential player for Jeff Stoutland University. So another guy that brings in discipline. Only 2 sacks allowed over his past 2 seasons at NC State. So these guys are true students, true technicians, athletes as well. Trevor Keegan and Dylan McMahon, they bring so much quickness and athleticism and footwork to the position. It's going to be crazy to see how that competition rolls. I think the Eagles see Dylan McMahon probably as maybe that backup center behind Jurgens, because I do agree with you. We have to see what Jurgens eventually turns into. I trust the talent base because he was good at right guard, but the health, that's my concern with Cam Jurgens. It's not really the talent, the health. You only gave us 11 games last year at right guard.
I mean, he is undersized.
And you're undersized. The closer you get to that interior, the more nasty it gets. And you playing center. So I know center is more natural to Cam rather than right guard. So I'm curious to see what their plans are with that. But they have a good problem on their hands. Trevor Keegan, Dylan McMahon. You bring in Maai Becton. Let's talk about that, right? What's your thoughts on Maai Becton being added to this offensive line group? Knowing, being a former first-round pick, he's in Jeff Stoutland U now. How do you see that going?
Overkill. They got Jeff Stoutland so many pieces. The Philadelphia Eagles is about to run this ball. They about to, bro. This should be a very physical team.
Yes.
It's like anytime, whenever you bring any type of offensive lineman in here, he's going right to Jeff Stoutland. So if they have any type of upside ability, you got former first round, man, it's just I'm extremely confident in Jeff Stoutland. So, and these guys have some really good traits about him. And I like it, man. He's a former first round pick.
6'7".
You giving Jeff Stoutland a former first round pick? Come on, man. Jeff Stoutland. He go get me him
because he got talent. He got talent. It's just the injuries. And the injuries led to him being inconsistent because he hasn't been able to string together consistent games. But from a pure talent perspective, you put him in that rotational swing tackle role. Less, you take the mileage off his body. You put him with a legit offensive line coach and Jeff Stoutland.
Yep.
Listen,
I think they're going to have certain packages for him in the run game. There's a lot of goal line stuff, man. Like with Jeff Stoutland, man, you could do so much with all of the pieces that you went and got him on the O line, and you didn't have to even use any high equity in the draft to do so. And it's man, I cannot wait to see. But I think they're going to have certain packages for a lot of these, for some of these linemen, especially with what's his name again?
Maai Becton.
Yeah. I can't. I'm terrible with names, bro.
No. Listen, you good though, because here's the thing. They've crossed their T's and dotted their I's when it comes to this draft. I think this draft class, just the way the entire draft board fell, in my humble opinion, I feel that this was the most masterful performance we've seen from Howie Roseman in terms of navigating the draft board. Not once in this draft did I feel like he reached for a player. If we had to really nitpick any move he made, I think it would be the Jalyx Hunt, drafting. That's about it. Because of the school, we have no idea where that school is or who he like. That came out of nowhere completely. But listen to this: the Philadelphia Eagles are. This is where cockiness is something to behold, right? The Philadelphia Eagles are so confident in their farm system when it comes to the trenches. They're so confident in their training regimen, so confident in Jeff Stoutland and just their overall approach to developing offensive linemen. They didn't draft their first one until the 5th round. Want to make sure I got the 5th round. It was so many linemen, tackles. It was so many coming off the board in those 3rd and 4th rounds, and they just kept trading back. And they arguably got maybe one of the best guards. Say it again.
I think 8 went in the first round or something like that. 8 offensive linemen.
That's a good question. I could tell you right now. And in the first round, when it comes to offensive linemen, so let me just look at tackles, right? Because tackles always go higher than everybody else. So in the first round, you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tackles go in the first round. You had 7 offensive linemen go in the first round. Make that 8 offensive linemen if you include Troy Fulton, who's a guard. Yeah. Make that 9 if you include Graham Barton, the center. They got the Duke center. So 9 offensive linemen got picked in the first round. 9.
Wow.
And so many got picked off later, even later, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and Howie just stood pat, read that draft board, and pulled the trigger on the players that he wanted. I got to give Howie a lot of credit for that. I also want to pick your brain about this other kid. My man Knight Rider brings him up, the 6'8" guy from Howard. His name is, make sure I got it right here. I got it right here on my little notes. His name is Aneem Dankwa, Howard U, offensive tackle. The kid is 6'8". Thank you again, Knight Rider, for the super chat as well. I appreciate you. But 6'8", 360 pounds. He's in that Jordan Mailata physical range, right? He's a project, obviously. Howard University, he's somebody you got to work on. He needs to work on the lateral quickness. But if I'm him, I'm going to be in Jordan Mailata hip pocket and say, "Hey, how'd you do it?"
Yeah, 6'8" is what? He's a tackle.
He's a tackle. Yeah, he's a tackle.
6'8", man. That's you gotta. It's like a leverage thing at some point. 6'8". Man, I think it'll be rough for him. Like you said,
Mailata's 6'7", 6'8", but again, like he's a unique product. He's different. He's
a former, right? He's a bro. You're not gonna see too many like better athletes in the world than Mailata.
Right.
He's an anomaly.
Right. Facts.
Maybe this kid is. Who knows? I haven't heard of him personally. What's his name?
His name was Aneem Dankwa. I never heard of him until the Eagles brought him in as an undrafted dude. But again,
he's an undrafted guy.
Yeah. But again, right, when you get to the back end, now you're looking at traits. You're looking at what makes these guys unique or special.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting in of itself.
Maybe it's his size. Is he 6'8"? How much? He's what 3? How much he weighs? He's
I think he's
6'8".
6'8", between 355 and 365, around that. I don't know. I don't remember exactly, but big dude, man. Just a big body. Again,
Definitely
another prospect that you work on.
Yeah.
Facts. Now I want to ask you about some things outside of the draft, right? We got about 10 minutes left. I don't want to keep you. But I got to ask you about just the overall moves they made in the offseason outside of the draft, right? You bring in Saquon Barkley. We kind of touched on that a little bit earlier, but you bring in Saquon Barkley, Bryce Huff, the ascending edge rusher. You bring back CJ He restores swagger to the defense. Devin White. I can go on and on. How do you feel? How are you processing just the entire offseason for the Philadelphia Eagles and just the deals they gave out? They paid Landon Dickerson big money. They gave Jordan Mailata another contract. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. Let's just start there.
I'm content with the overall trajectory of the team as far as every move they've made so far, outside of bringing back Nick Sirianni. I'm perfectly fine with. That's my only issue with the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'm still a bit salty about it. I'm not gonna lie.
Expand on that.
Yeah, I'm man. But outside of Nick Sirianni, coming back, everything else has been perfect. It's been it's like, is this really happening? Is this like Saquon Barkley being able to keep Devontae Smith and AJ Brown together, which was, they did not see that happening. I don't think anybody seen AJ Brown being restructured, while still having an active contract. Yeah, man, I'm grateful that the team is, doing the right things. But my only issue is Nick Sirianni. Outside of that, Howie's just he. At some point, we have to talk about Super Bowls, because the Philadelphia Eagles are doing all of these things right. And again, what's the goal? What's the standard? I hold this team to a standard of Super Bowls. We need championships.
Agreed.
So when you're at such a high, like Jalen Hurts say, the standard is the standard. You guys set this standard so high. Anything that does not, any move that's being made or anything that doesn't exemplify or show that you guys are all in for a championship, that's when I begin to, have problems. Anything that isn't about the team as a whole, trying to win a Super Bowl. And when a lot of times I do feel like the fan base, I feel like we take our eye off the ball at points, and I may come off as being super hypercritical of this team. But what's the goal? The goal is a Super Bowl, so it's a high standard, and that comes with it when we're striving for championships, especially after losing the Super Bowl, right? So, yeah, man, I love what they've been doing. And I love it. I love it. I really have it's crazy for me not to have any problems with what the Philadelphia Eagles are doing, because it's always something with me, because again, the standard is a Super Bowl. But yeah, man, they've been doing amazing. And so it's even with the draft, I couldn't even find anything bro, they've been going crazy. So at this point, we need a Super Bowl. Period. We need a championship this year.
Yeah, you have to win a Super Bowl to validate every move you made. Yeah. One thing I will say, Harry Roseman is making it where as though you can't look at him and say, "Hey, he didn't do his job." And you were able to nitpick some of the moves last year because you definitely saw him shortchange in certain positions for sure. But I believe, especially this upcoming season, he has made every move so you can take the scope off of him And now we're looking straight at this coaching staff. Now we're looking right at Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has been giving everything. Nick Sirianni, you've been giving everything. They've surrounded you with nothing but experience,
No
right?
excuses.
And you said something really interesting, right? The fact is that you have a guy in Nick Sirianni that you had a problem with how things went to a point where you fired everybody around him, but you kept him, and you replaced everybody around him with guys with experience. I want you to expand more on your Nick Sirianni point, because it sounds like you don't trust him with this level of personnel.
I mean, I just don't trust. I mean, you look at his background, how he got the Eagles job. I just don't. Nothing about him really sits well with me. The fact that he can sneak in and call plays and it not pan out and he's not held accountable. The fact that you was with the Colts and you weren't even calling plays there, but you got hired here, and with the assumption that you could fix Carson Wentz. It's like bro, what have you done in the NFL? You failed you can't call plays. We've seen it twice. You failed at that. So at some point you got to look and say, man, is it a Nick Sirianni problem? And I would hate for it to be another wasted year with Nick Sirianni. And he's pretty much been exposed. I mean, you look at last year, you see he couldn't call plays. The team imploded. He looks like a yes man. But my whole thing is, man, he's shown me nothing in the NFL to validate his position as an NFL head coach. Nothing at all.
What do you say to those people who push back and say, well, he's won a lot more than he's lost?
You have to look at the his coaching staff around him. You look at Jonathan Gannon, he's a head coach now, right? He had a historic defense, regardless of whatever people want to say about the defense that he put together. It was a historic defense. Then you have Shane Steichen. Shane Steichen had Jalen Hurts looking like an MVP, right? And then you go see these coordinators succeed in the NFL. Jonathan Gannon came back and whooped Nick Sirianni, out coached him. I mean,
yeah, it wasn't a good look.
Jonathan Gannon came into Philly and was the best head coach that day by far. So, I mean, when you talk about Nick Sirianni's win percentage, it dates back to his days with the Colts. He's a product of the coaching staff around him. And I forget the guy's name from the Colts. What's his name?
Shane Steichen?
No. The guy from Frank Reich.
Frank.
Yeah, Frank. He was underneath Frank Reich, and he was the mastermind over there. And he got the job just because he was the offensive coordinator at the time. He didn't call plays. It was Frank Reich. He get here, and it's the same thing. Right now, you look at who he had. Who does he have with him now? Kellen Moore, and the best defensive coordinator probably in the NFL, in my opinion. So again, he's stacked with coordinators. He's a product. He's always been a product of the coaches around him. Unfortunately, he was exposed. Right. So if you're going to keep a Nick Sirianni, he has to have, the coordinators around him. But as a head coach, I don't believe in Nick Sirianni.
Well, to your point,
I think he can come back and bite us in the butt, man. I think he'd come back and he scares me. He scares me.
No, he definitely makes me nervous a little bit. But to your point though, as far as him being a product of the people around him, the Philadelphia Eagles making the moves they made on the coaching staff told you what they thought of him. He felt like he needed more people around him to elevate him. It's put him in a position where as though now we don't know what to blame him for. Now we don't know. How are you evaluating Nick Sirianni now? Is it strictly a win-loss equation? Is it strictly that? Or are you grading him based on the success and the continuity of the offense? We know he's not a defensive guy, so we're looking at Vic Fangio for that. They've taken so much off of his plate. They made it kind of hard to really look at him and say, okay, what where does he fit into the what amount of criticism can you put at his doorstep? That what makes it more frustrating for me.
They make it seem like he's useless. Why are you around then? That's a question. If we got
it's confusing because you got the NFLPA, those when the players vote anonymously about their teams, the flights and the food and coaches, and you see the Philadelphia Eagles getting a grade for coaching and all that kind of stuff. With Nick Sirianni, the players like Nick Sirianni, so I'm trying to figure out, okay, which is it, man? Because like, do they like this dude but they don't respect him, or is it one of those situations where they like him because they felt like he well, what's the temperature of Nick Sirianni in that building amongst the leadership? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's confusing.
I don't trust him. Bro, at all. I don't trust him. I really don't. I don't trust him. That's the only thing. I don't
trust him, bro. I'm sorry. I just don't. I ain't even mad at you. Final question, man, before I get you out of here. I really appreciate you for taking the time out the way you had, my man. Means a lot to me. Final question. Jalen Hurts. Again, he's been given everything. He has the offensive line. He has the weapons. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. I can go on. Saquon Barkley. What's your evaluation on him right now? How did you process the down year in 2023, and what's your expectations going into this upcoming season?
Well, with Jalen Hurts, I feel like with Jalen Hurts and the coordinators, I feel like you have to get him his guy. When you have a revolving door of offensive coordinators, it makes it difficult for a young quarterback to properly develop because he's too busy learning instead of just reacting and using his natural instincts and abilities. So a lot of that I would have to again when you're winning, the quarterback gets a lot of the credit, and when you're losing, you have to place blame on him as well. I think he did some things that he shouldn't have done in during the season, forcing the ball and trying to force feed A.J. Brown and stuff like that, not going through his progressions. But again, I think that was a product of Nick Sirianni and whatever they had going on with Brian Johnson with the play calling. So I kind of can't really knock Jalen Hurts as much as certain people would like me to, or I'm gonna give him a fair shake because it's too many different coordinators. And Brian Johnson was his guy, so there should have been some familiarity with those two guys. So, man, it's tough to really evaluate Jalen Hurts right now, to be honest with you. But so far, I like his trajectory. I think he deserves his contract. I think he earned it. I think he's top 10 quarterback. He's a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. I would rank him probably like around between 5 and 7 or somewhere like that. So the guy's a dog, don't get me wrong. But last year, I really think it was just a product of just the offensive coordinator and all of the drama. I think he could have handled certain situations better. As far as just being a leader. I'm not saying he has a leadership issue or his stoic approach is something that's a negative or whatever. I think he's an amazing leader, but I would have liked to see Jalen Hurts maybe kind of be more assertive. There was a point where he came out in the media and he kind of said something, and he kind of left it at that. He threw his shot out. He sent some shots, and I respect that. So I mean, but you can't. Jalen Hurts, you don't want to change who he is, his personality or things like that. I think he's a phenomenal leader. I think he's an amazing quarterback. But at times, I think Jalen Hurts has to, be more assertive and show some assertiveness. And that's gonna give everybody so much energy. Because when you see the quietest person just coming out of their shell, it's like, whoa, and it kind of, you can feed off of that energy. So I would have loved to have seen him do that down the stretch, maybe in a playoff game or some of these critical games down the season. But his play, I feel like he's phenomenal. I would like to see, him stay a bit more healthier. But again, it's the NFL. That type of stuff is going to happen. So I can't knock him for that. But yeah, I think he's phenomenal. Quarterbacks usually have like years where they have like a crazy amount of interceptions. Jalen Hurts has had fumble problems, but as far as turnovers, I don't think his turnovers have been, throughout his career have been that detrimental. We do have the fumble in the Super Bowl, but I don't even think that was that big of a deal because we scored and we were up at half after that, that turnover. But nonetheless, I think we have our guy to win a couple Super Bowls. Okay, but again, some of his injuries, they scare me. You'll never know when he's going to be injured. It's going to be hard to get that information out. He had something going on with his ankle in Alabama, and Nick Saban didn't know. The team didn't know. But he's going to fight through it. So I love that about him. But I worry, just as far as some of the injuries or whatever. But overall, man, he's our guy to go get us a couple. I can see him winning 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
So we need to get it done. But overall, I think he's a great quarterback.
Yeah, man, you are in line with that.
The last part of that. The last part of that question.
Oh yeah, basically just I guess the expectation. And what do you think Kellen Moore is going to? What do you think Kellen Moore is going to add to that? To add to what he already does.
Expectations, Super Bowl, definitely a Super Bowl is my expectations. Kellen Moore, man, the Cowboys fans, they talk a lot of trash, right? But sometimes they get in my head. They kind of scare me when they be telling me about Kellen Moore. But overall, he has all the pieces to succeed. Yeah. You can't be bad with all of these pieces on offense. And if you're bad,
they make it easier for you. They make it easier for you.
Yeah, you cannot drop the ball with this offense, right? You can't. Even you look at with Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni, how bad they were. Mm-hmm. You look at the paper, you look at the stats, Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts, like, there's not much drop off here. They're still ranking top 5, top 10 in some offensive categories. Like, so even if you're bad at your job at coordinator, you got so much talent. The players are still going to make plays just off the strength that they're on the field. Now if he can somehow put them in positions to create space for them to make plays, and if he's creative with some of his play calls, run the ball. If he's great with designing plays, man, I think he'll be fine. And I think he can do that. Right? You look at his track record with Dak Prescott. He's had some good years with Dak. He's had some good years with even over there with the Chargers. So, the Dallas Cowboy fans, man, they got me really contemplating. I'll have to see it, honestly, man. I'll have to see it. But I think he'll be fine. I think we should be fine with Kellen. He's definitely an upgrade from Brian Johnson, but you got to keep Nick Sirianni. Here's my thing. Nick Sirianni has already came out and talked about them meshing their 2 schemes together. Why would they? Why? I have no idea. I don't want to see Nick Sirianni. That's why I wanted him fired, bro. I don't want him. I don't want his hands in none of the play calling design. I don't want anything. If you're going to be the head coach, just go sit in the corner, bro. Be the hype man. I don't want you putting your little dirty little fingers.
I think he peacocking, bro.
And messing with the offense stuff. I don't want to see it again. But they're
already
doing it. They're already doing it.
I don't even buy it because in terms of them meshing our schemes, I ain't buying it. I think he just peacocking so people can assume that he is doing something. He has a role, but we heard what Jalen Hurts said, right? Jalen Hurts said, "Yeah, they're bringing a lot in. All I want to do is just sit back, let them install what they want us to do, and then from that point, we'll we'll add tweaks in based off of what I like, what I don't like. So I believe that more so than what Nick Sirianni talk about, because if Jalen Hurts is trying to take his game to the next level, you want to allow your new coordinator to bring stuff in that you haven't done before. You don't want to push back right away. You want that to come in, you want to learn it. And then you say, okay, let's try to add this. Let's remove this. Let's put this in there. I'm comfortable with this. I'm not comfortable with that. I'm willing to roll with that. But Nick Sirianni trying to, swing his weight around, talking about, we measured this thing. I ain't buying that shit, bro.
You calling this bluff?
I'm calling this bluff, man. Listen, go carry the water or something. I'm calling this bluff.
Bro, they better keep him away from that offensive meeting room, man. For real. Keep him away. Please
I'm calling this bluff, man. You don't. I can't have another season where Nick Sirianni is, because that was the annoying part about last year, right? You had Brian Johnson taking all these hits, but come to find out, he's just running the plays Nick Sirianni want him to run. Yeah. And there was too many situations where we saw two receivers within 5 yards of each other, running routes that are literally, colliding on each other, right? Yeah. I will never forget that playoff game against the Bucs. You heard Joe Buck and Troy Aikman talking about, what are they doing? Why are these two receivers in the same quadrant of the field? Like, it don't make sense. So hopefully he's not making too many decisions on that side of the ball. I have a hard time believing they bring in Kellen Moore, Vic Fangio, if Nick Sirianni is still making any kind of decisions when it comes to what's going to happen on Sunday. I think Nick Sirianni is going to be in charge of first, going forward on fourth down, or going forward in the red zone. He's going to be in charge of the clock, the timeouts, all that stuff is very important, by the way. Very important. I've never had any issues with his clock management. I've never had any issues with his timeout usage or whatever. Never had any issues of when he decided to go for it. So I think all that stuff still has a level of importance. But in terms of just the overall identity of the offense, I want to see what Kellen Moore brings to the table. We know what you can do with this, and I don't trust you. You know what Future and Metro say? We still don't trust you. We still don't trust you. But we'll see. We'll see, man. But, man, Weapon X Media, man, I appreciate you for taking the time out, coming onto the platform. You guys, please make sure you subscribe to the good brother, Weapon X, at Weapon X Eagles Media. He has the Voice of the Eagles podcast, the Voice of the Eagles show. Please make sure you guys subscribe. I definitely put the link in the live stream, in the live chat for you guys. I'll drop it in there one more time. Please make sure you guys subscribe to the good brother. He's doing amazing work. As you guys can see, nearly 60,000 subs. I'm trying to, I'm looking forward to going on his platform so I can pull from his people. You know what I'm saying? So that's the next move, right? He showed me love on my side. Now I need to go over there and grace his platform, and now it's time for me to for him to pay it forward. That's what it's going to end up being. But man, shout out to him for doing amazing work. He's been covering the Eagles for a long time. You don't get to this point, you don't get this kind of support if you're not doing it the right way. And I'm grateful for him for reaching out to me, extending that olive branch to me, so we can take both of our platforms to the next level. He came in with a lot of gratitude, a lot of love, and I appreciate him for that. So make sure you guys subscribe to Weapon X Eagles Media, doing amazing work. The link is in the live stream, so make sure you guys are on the right side of history. My man, any final words, anything you want to promote, anything you want to shout out, anything that you want to just throw out there into the ether before I get you out of here, my man? Go ahead, let's do it.
Drop a like and subscribe to Chalk It Up Sports. Hey, we're going to lock back in too, man.
For sure, bro. You already know how I give it up, man. I really appreciate it, man. This is definitely going to be the last time. It was definitely fun talking to you. Then next time we link, I'm going to be on the other side answering your questions, and we're going to get into it like that. But my man, I appreciate your time. I already kept you well over, and you gave me a lot to work with, my guy. So I appreciate you. You take care, all right?
All right, bro.
All right. Man, shout out to the good brother, Weapon X Eagles Media. What do I always say to you guys? You ask and you receive. I like to bring on some top tier guests that know what they're doing. Guests that really show a lot of love. I appreciate y'all. Shout out to my people on X. Shout out to my people on YouTube. You guys have been showing a lot of love, and it means a lot to me. So make sure you guys continue to lock in. Oh, yeah, by the way, I almost forgot Knight Rider. My bad. I almost forgot. There we go. You should be straight now, Knight Rider. You should be straight. But yeah, overall, man. I'm really grateful to the good brother for showing a lot of love, man. There's always love with her. But yeah, man, it's always good to bring on different opinions when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles, because you always want to make sure you're looking at this situation in the most fair way possible. There's going to be moments where your bias comes in. There's going to be moments where you just have an opinion about certain things. But overall, I appreciate different perspectives on the platform. That's kind of how you got to do it these days, man. So I'm definitely going to lock in with my man, Weapon X, at some point. But there you have it, you guys. I really appreciate it. There's so much to get into, so much to talk about as the offseason progresses. But it's been a hell of a show, and you guys have been tremendous. Make sure you guys continue to smash that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Make sure you guys do subscribe to Weapon X Eagles Media. He does great work. Shout out to my man Barrett Brooks, who was on the channel yesterday. You guys did a great job showing out for that. That interview premiered today. So make sure you guys also lock in on my Barrett Brooks interview. That's on the YouTube channel right now. It's doing very well. A lot of you guys really appreciate it. So, oh, shoot, I almost forgot Fitness. I appreciate it, man. So, yeah, Fitness Warrior donated $10 earlier, right? And he says, why hasn't anyone asked the question yet? If the collapse was so bad, why would 5 great players sign huge contracts knowing they could get paid the same or more somewhere else? Well, here's the thing. I think the collapse, I don't know. Like it's a lot in there that you're asking, right? I think at the end of the day, players are going to go to whoever pays them, right? So when it comes to like Landon Dickerson, Jordan Mailata, the Philadelphia Eagles are always going to invest in the trenches. And listen, these NFL players, if you paid them enough money, they'll play on the moon. You feel what I'm saying? If somehow, some way, the Canadian Football League came up on $1 billion and they threw a ton of money at one of these NFL players, they would take that check. See, it's so I don't want you to believe that because they had a collapse, the Eagles are a bad organization. Just because, them having the collapse and them being a good organization, those aren't mutually exclusive. They can, both those things can exist, right? They did collapse, but the collapse doesn't stop a player from signing a big contract with that team, because I think from a foundational perspective, the Philadelphia Eagles are a good franchise from a foundational standpoint. So I don't know if that's really a question, right? I think what would be better, what would be a better question is, if Nick Sirianni is so bad, why would these players sign the contracts they did, right? Because I don't think it's about the Eagles. I don't think it's about the collapse. Things happen over the course of an NFL season. I don't think the collapse had too much of an influence on whether or not those players would take the contracts the Eagles offered or whatever it may be. I don't think it had too much influence. I think the Eagles were always going to pay Landon Dickerson regardless. I think Landon Dickerson was going to take the contract or work it out regardless. Jordan Mailata, same thing. Devontae Smith, same thing. AJ Brown, same thing. CJG. The Eagles are still a top tier organization, despite having that rough second part of the season. I mean, they still went 10-1 at one point. Things just kind of fell off a cliff and it snowballed. And I don't want to take that for granted or overlook that. It happened. But I don't think that collapse had the biggest influence on whether or not Devontae Smith, Landon Dickerson, Jordan Mailata, Saquon Barkley, AJ Brown. I don't think that had the biggest impact, because you know what it is. At the end of the day, you know what these players look at when they decide who they want to take money from. Obviously, they look at who's paying them, right, and how much they're getting. But they also look at, okay, I'm also trying to win games. Who's at the quarterback position? That's something that gets talked about often, right? When it comes to these players and them deciding who they want to play for. So, and thank you, Fitness Warrior, for donating to the channel. He says, Tone, I just asked the questions because I just ask the questions people don't want to ask. I understand what happened. You just have the voice and mind to answer it truthfully. Well, you know, I guess for me, I never thought that part was a question, right? I didn't think that because they collapsed, Mailata would say, nah, I don't want your money, I'm out. Or Landon Dickerson would say, nah, I don't want your money, I'm out. Or Devontae Smith would say that, or AJ Brown would say that. I think that collapse happened, and they look at it as, damn, what the hell happened? But I don't think it was bad enough for them to say, oh, I can't play here. I don't trust this organization. The Eagles are still a top-tier organization that clearly have shown that they're trying to win Super Bowls every single year. And I think players respect that. But even more so, they look at the quarterback position and they say, okay, who's the quarterback? Am I trying to win? See, players look at the Philadelphia Eagles as an organization where they can win and get paid. And not many organizations are able to check both of those boxes. And that's what makes the Philadelphia Eagles unique and great in their own way. Teams look at them as, I can win with them and I can get paid. A lot of teams don't have both of those boxes checked. Teams look at Detroit. Oh, I can win there and get paid. Teams look at the Chiefs. Oh, I can win there and get paid. Right? The 49ers. I can win and get paid. But again, it's all about production at the end of the day. And these guys have produced to the best of their ability. But overall, though, great question. Great question, Fitness Warrior, because it provokes conversation and it adds to the content at the end of the day. So I appreciate you asking that question. But we're going to get out of here, you guys. I appreciate the love. I appreciate the support. You guys know how I give it up. Please, please, please make sure you guys like the content. Make sure you guys are on Twitter, retweeting the show, sharing the show, commenting, whatever you got to do. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Make sure you guys also are hitting the notification bell. That reminds you whenever I go live, okay? So I appreciate you guys. I'm grateful to my guest, Weapon X Eagles Media, who has his show, The Voice of the Eagles. Make sure you guys go subscribe to his channel, and it's straight like that. I'm your humble host, Tone DeShields II, and you guys were locked in on Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game.